Hello everyone, welcome to SI UK Japan webinar. Thank you for joining us today. Over to you, Corey.
Okay.
Corey, you are on mute.
失礼しました。Sorry。皆様、こんにちは。SIUK 東京オフィスの菊池と申します。本日は、弊社のウェビナーにご参加をいただきありがとうございます。本日はリージェントカレッジロンドンにつきましてご案内をさせていただきたいと思います。それでは、担当官のスコットさんに、プレゼンテーションの方を始めていただきたいと思います。Hello, Scott.
Hello and good afternoon. Hi. Ready?
Yes, of course. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today, and thank you for spending your valuable afternoon listening to me. It's a sunny day here in London, and I'm very happy to be with you. So today I'd like to, if I may, introduce to you Regent College London, for whom I work. Talk to you a little bit about the undergraduate, the foundation and the master's programs. Talk about how our college is suitable for Japanese students, and then answer any of your valuable questions at the end of the presentation. Okay, so I am actually the head of the English department. And I'm also responsible for international recruitment. So that's one of the reasons that I'm here today. The other reason I'm here today is because I have a kind of deep background with Japanese students. I've had quite a bit of experience both teaching and organizing training for Japanese people. And I'll talk to you about that in a minute. So I'll talk about that, and then I'm going to talk about the needs that I've kind of discovered that Japanese students tend to have when they're studying, not just studying English, but studying in the UK. And then I'm going to focus on some of the subject areas. We have 3 schools at Regent, and I'll talk about the different subject areas in a bit more detail. So just to give you a little bit of background about me, I used to run a school for Japanese business people and students in London, in North London, basically to expatriate business people and their families living in the UK and especially in London. They typically came from the banking and finance sector, but I also worked with Japanese students from the manufacturing, design, and even the arts sector. So I once taught a Japanese theatre director and an opera singer, which was great fun. But like I say, I also have a lot of experience working with university students, students studying, for example, for MBAs, law faculties, for example, at UCL, and the University of Arts. So the first part of my experience with Japanese people was very much focusing both on business and students who needed to improve their English for lectures and seminars and so on. And then the latter part of my career, I worked for a company called the London School of English, where I was business development manager, and I worked in Japan, or rather I used to travel to Japan, giving presentations to Japanese companies, explaining to them why our training was suitable for them. And a lot of these managers were coming over, for example, to the UK to study MBA courses again at the Harvard Business School, IMD, London Business School. And I used to arrange training sessions for them to help them not only with academic English and business English, but also intercultural skills training. and also communication skills training, which I'll talk about a bit later, which I think is really important for every student, whether you're a language student, whether you're a business student who wants to improve their business skills, or whether you want to live and work in the UK, because you're going to need communication and intercultural skills if you want to do so. So that's a little bit of background about me, and I gave you that background because I'd like to share with you some of the observations that I have made over the years about the needs of Japanese students when they are studying. And again, not just studying English, but also studying for a degree, a foundation, or a master's. So if you'll allow me, I'd like to share some of those observations with you and then talk about how Regent College actually addresses some of the issues or challenges that some of our Japanese students face when they come to the UK. And by doing this, I think that if we have a good understanding of our international client base, we are better able to keep them happy and resolve any problems that they might have. So for Japanese students, obviously from a kind of, first of all, from a language point of view, speaking and listening are the weak areas. So for example, understanding fast native speaker English. So I remember one student who came to me for English lessons, complained that when they went to the lecturer was speaking very fast and they couldn't follow the lecturer. Also, the lecturer, unfortunately, was Irish, so she had a very strong Irish accent. So one of the things that our Japanese students need to kind of adapt to and understand and get better at is understanding, fast native speaker English. And that's something that I focus on when supporting our students. The other thing, of course, is speaking, and getting up in front of a group in your seminar and giving a presentation can be quite daunting. It can be quite scary. So we help you to build your confidence so that you're able to give, coherent and confident presentations. When Japanese students come to the UK, usually they use a slightly more formal style of English because probably that's what you've learned in Japan. But when you're living in London and studying in London and even working in London or the UK, you need to adapt your English to a more perhaps colloquial, idiomatic, informal style. So you've got to keep both the formal and the informal side of things in order to better integrate. And again, Japanese students tend to have this very good passive knowledge of grammar and vocabulary, for example, but they need to implement that in the lecture room when they're speaking, when they're discussing, when they're debating. So we're very aware of those challenges that Japanese students have, and we're very careful when we are teaching on the academic course or on the English courses to make sure that students have that support in those areas so that they don't feel inhibited, they don't feel shy, but they feel gradually more and more confident. And we talk to our other students from other nationalities, mainly from Europe, about how to compromise and how to meet different people from different nationalities in a kind of common ground, so that they, for example, are not interrupting you when you're trying to speak. They understand that you have to maybe take a little bit of a step back when you are communicating with people from different cultures. From a cultural point of view, many of the students that I worked with, it was their first time in Europe, and for some of them it was their first time outside of Japan. So of course there is a culture shock that students will experience. And we have a system for helping with that. We have a good support network, student support officers that help students outside of the classroom, so that if you've got questions about food or the weather or accommodation, we're always there to help you and support you. Again, because Japanese society tends to be more homogenous than the UK society. UK society is much more multicultural. Sometimes Japanese students need some help and support understanding the different cultures and how to communicate effectively with those cultures. And again, going back to your communication style, you might find that when you come to the UK, people constantly interrupt you. This can be very frustrating for you, but it's the style of, if you like, Western or European communication that people do tend to kind of jump in and interrupt. Again, we're there to kind of umpire and make sure that the conversation flow and the communication flow is controlled. But yeah, we are aware of that, and that's something that you'll need to kind of adapt to. In terms of study expectations, I think Japanese students sometimes think that they will have much more interaction with the tutors than they actually do get. The style of UK university and higher education is that you are expected to take control of your own study for a good amount of time. Not all the time. There will be lots of opportunity to interact with other students and with tutors, but you will be autonomous, perhaps more autonomous in the UK than you might be if you're studying in Japan, for example. And then finally, from a cultural point of view, there are practical considerations that Japanese students tend to have, which is, for example, when they are looking for accommodation, they like to be near a tube station or near a convenience store, and they love the English kind of parks and gardens that you find in London. So if you can be near Regent's Park or somewhere like that, you'll probably feel a bit more at home. So I hope that's okay. I mean, those are very kind of, I hope they're not stereotypes. I think they're tendencies that I have observed over the years. And, you know, part of my job is to make sure that Japanese students coming over to Regent College, along with other students, feel comfortable when they come, and so that culture shock is not too severe when they land in the UK. And I hope that I can reassure you that with my experience, with my knowledge of working with Japanese people, that I can help you and support you when you come. So I'm going to talk a little bit later about how we address some of those challenges in the courses that we offer. But first of all, I would just like to, sorry, that's a kind of summary of what I've just said. I'd now like to talk a bit about the college, Regent College, what we offer, to see whether it might be of interest to you. So Regent College was actually set up in the year 2000. So we're a fairly new higher education institute, and it was set up, established to provide vocational, career-oriented and practical academic programs for people living in London, actually. So from this January, we are offering our courses to the international community from January 2022, but we have a well-established higher education institute for British or local UK domicile students. We are a higher education institute. We are not yet a university, but we deliver foundation, undergraduate degrees and master's programs on behalf of 3 universities. The first is the University of Bolton, which is based in the north of England. We also deliver programs on behalf of Bucks New University, or Buckinghamshire New University, and we deliver programs on behalf of the University of Northampton. And the reason that we exist is really because some students, for example, don't want to study in the north of England, they want to study in London. And so therefore we deliver University of Bolton programs in central London to students who want to study in London rather than Manchester, which is where Bolton is. So if you like, you can see us as the London campus for Bolton University. And the reason I talk about Bolton is because for international students, we only deliver University of Bolton programs, although we are partners with other universities. Now, Bolton is in the top 50 universities in the UK. It's not a Russell Group university, but it's a very solid university, and it's rising quickly in the ranks of university rankings. And as I say, we deliver programs on behalf of them. So we have 3 schools within Regent College. We have a School of Business and Enterprise, a School of Allied Health, and a School of Computing and AI. And I'm going to talk a bit about the programs that those schools offer a bit later. We are, of course, as a higher education institute, regularly inspected for quality standards by the Quality Assurance Agency, and we have excellent results in the National Student Survey. I'm very proud to say that the results of our recent survey were published yesterday, and we scored an overall satisfaction score of 90%. That's 90%, which we're very proud of because that is higher than the national average by 15%. And that puts us now in the top 14% of higher education institutes and universities in the UK for student satisfaction. So very proud of that. As I mentioned, we are based in central London. We actually have 5 centres across London. Our flagship, our central centre is actually in central London. That's a lot of centres, but central London, that's in Fitzrovia. I mentioned Regent's Park. We are literally 15 minutes from walking from Regent's Park. We are 20 minutes on the underground from the City of London, which is the banking area, Clerkenwell, Moorgate, and so on. And 15 minutes walk from the British Museum. So we're really very well placed in central London if you want to enjoy a central London campus. The other centres that we have are in the north of London, Harrow, also Kingsbury, Southall and Wembley. But for the purposes of, for example, masters and our foundation programs, we will be delivering them in central London. So probably for your purposes, you will be studying in the centre. If you do have to study in a different centre, you will not have to travel more than 40 minutes. That's 40 minutes on the London Underground. But like I say, we want to keep you in the centre if we possibly can. I mentioned the current student body. We have 4,500 students at the moment. They are all UK domicile students, but they derive from a variety of backgrounds in terms of nationality. We have students from Europe, from Africa, from Asia, and from the Middle East, but they are settled in the UK and therefore they are UK domicile. The average age of students at the moment is 28, so it's quite mature. So if you are thinking of studying MA with us, I think you'll be in good company with similar age students. And as I said, we're very serious about supporting all of our students, but I think especially with international students who need that extra help and support. So we have dedicated student support officers, as I mentioned, who can help you on matters outside of the classroom, but also if you're struggling inside of the classroom, if, for example, you're finding the written work difficult, I will be there to support you, and you'll also have a dedicated academic support officer who will be there to help you, in addition to your course tutor, in addition to the head of the school and the deputy head of the school. So there are multiple points of contact to actually support you. We have 4 intakes: September, January, April, and June. And as I said, we are starting the intake for international students from January 2022. We offer extracurricular support and activities in the form of what we call scope sessions. This is a holistic approach to learning, which I'm going to talk a bit about later. But basically, our ethos is that we want you to have good academic support and knowledge, but we also want you to be able to put that knowledge into practice. So we focus a lot on the practical application of your academic knowledge. Again, I will talk about that a bit later. We have an active policy of widening access and participation, offering education to all, and that's why our fees are very competitive. So, for example, our foundation programs are priced at $9,250, whereas our bachelor's and master's are priced at $12,450. And that is before scholarships or bursaries are offered. So the pricing of courses is very competitive. In terms of progression opportunities, as I said, we were first established to help students, prepare them for the workplace, give them the academic knowledge that they needed, for example, to get a promotion, to get a senior management position, but also be able to put that academic knowledge into practice. But we take your future career very, very seriously. And we have a number of connections with local employers, local companies. We arrange placements, for example. I'll talk about that with, for example, our healthcare programs. We place our students in local healthcare organizations and companies. Our tutors are recruited from industry. So they are industry professionals or high-level researchers. And of course, they will have links to their respective sectors and a good network that they can introduce you to. We're constantly revising the course content so that it is reflective of real-life sector changes. One example would be, for example, healthcare programs that have been adapted to take into account COVID and the impact that COVID has had on society and the healthcare sector. So we're constantly evolving, updating our programs. We offer strong careers advice to students. So if you need a CV looked at or kind of developed, we can help you with that. We have careers advice, a dedicated careers advice department that can help you with job applications, and we'd be very happy to prepare you, for example, for interviews if you need or want to go for interviews. So you'll have your CV, job interview, and the application for the job, and we'll support you on all of that. The students that come to us either want to progress onto higher academic qualifications, or some of them want to go directly into the workplace. So we're mindful of both of those needs of students. But if you are looking to work in the UK, we can certainly help you with that. So looking at the programme aims and kind of returning to what I was talking about earlier in terms of the challenges that international students and especially Japanese students face, I would say that all of our programme aims focus on the following. Obviously, we want you to have a deeper knowledge of your subject-specific area. And again, we want you to have a practical working knowledge of that, how you can apply that knowledge in the workplace. You will improve your English language during the course because you will be activating language, vocabulary, which is relevant to your particular job sector. Of course, on the foundation programme, we will focus more on your English. 30% of the programme is dedicated to improving your English. But I'd just like to say that we focus on academic English so that you're better able, for example, to write dissertations, to give presentations in your academic study. But also we are there again to develop the language that you are going to need for your future career. So you're going to be focusing on vocabulary and language which is specifically relevant to your job in the future, and that's something that a standard language school doesn't equip you with. They will give you general English or they'll give you business English, but what we give you is sector specific English for healthcare, for business, for computing. So it's directly relevant to the language that you're going to be using in your future. So very important. We will be developing academic skills and study skills, for example, how to reference, how to paraphrase. I'll talk a little bit about that in a bit more detail later. There'll also be focus on communication and intercultural skills. So, for example, if you choose to study the Masters of International Management, the focus of that course is everything to do with an international context. So whether it's marketing, whether it's HR, all of the academic study that you're doing will be presented within an international context. And again, I can talk about that later. We want you to be able to progress if you are a foundation student or indeed you're an undergraduate. We want you to be able to progress to the next stage, whether you want to go on to masters or undergraduate. All of the skills that you are learning will help you with your future studies. So, I talk about English language, but I've identified here some of the things that, again, I think are really relevant to you, Japanese coming over to the UK: pronunciation, fluency, accuracy, making sure that you have the confidence to speak up, to give your opinion and to say what you want to say rather than being shy or nervous. We want you to have that confidence to interact with your fellow classmates, to interact with your tutor, and so that you're then again better ready to enter the UK workforce if you want to work in the UK. Listening, I mentioned, listening to fast native speaker English is always going to be a challenge. So we focus on helping you to understand that, looking at how we push words together, for example, when we're speaking fast, understanding vocabulary in context, and also listening so that you're able to respond to the question, for example, or to the conversation that's being had. Listening is not just about understanding, but it's also about giving you the opportunity to respond spontaneously, perhaps, or convincingly. So if somebody asks you a question related to the lecture, you're able to respond to that quickly. Writing, of course, can be a challenge for international students, all students, even native students, because writing is an area of our English, perhaps, that we neglect. So we'll look at paragraphing, how to look at formal versus informal register, and how to build an argument within your writing, which is really important for you to be able to enter the UK style, which is to present your argument based on facts, referencing, coherently and clearly, and building your dissertation. Reading, of course, being able to read quickly and being able to extract the relevant information from text or journals, books, newspapers, whatever, and be able to then put that into your writing. And again, developing that language and vocabulary, building language and vocabulary which is specific to your subject area, whether it's marketing, talking about data, talking about trends in healthcare, whatever it is, we can help you and develop that area. Just very quickly, I mentioned academic study skills. When we talk about academic study skills, we're talking about your ability to critically analyze what you've read from various sources, to be able to kind of package that within your dissertations, within your presentations, again, convincingly. You will need to reference, and you will need to avoid plagiarism. We incidentally use the Harvard referencing style. You'll need to be able to summarize, paraphrase, note-taking. So for example, when you're listening to a lecture, are you able to listen and take notes? It's a skill that needs to be developed for your university life, and we are there again to help you. Listening to 2 minutes on the radio is very different to listening to 1 hour of a lecturer talking, and then being able again to extract the relevant information. And of course, we'll also help you with your ICT skills, information communication technology, and library skills, which are really important skills for future study as well. Again, the intercultural bit, which I'm very passionate about, because it's one thing being able to communicate in English to English people, but it's quite another when you are communicating, for example, to an Italian or somebody from Turkey or somebody from Russia or Africa. You need to be aware of how your communication style impacts on the person that you're speaking to. And so we work with you on that impact, being aware of how communication affects the nationality that you're speaking to. But in addition to national cultures, we also look at the UK university culture and make you kind of prepared and ready for the UK university culture, which is quite different, as I mentioned earlier, perhaps to Japanese university culture, the autonomy, the self-study that you will be expected to undertake. And then when we talk about culture, we also are thinking about the sectoral culture, the functional culture, and the organizational culture. And just let me, if you will, please explain what I mean by that. If you're working in the public sector in the future, that's going to be quite a different culture from working in the private sector. And we want you to be aware of that again for your future careers. Functional culture is about the job that you take. So if you're working in marketing, the culture of marketing may be quite different from the culture of IT, and you need to be aware of what the differences of those cultures are. And then organizational culture, if you are working for a hierarchical company compared to a flat company, there will be a different culture according to the organization that you're working for. And again, this is really important to get you ready for work if you're working in the UK or in the West, or even back in a multinational back in Japan. There may be different styles of culture depending on the company that you work for. Anyway, just to let you know, we're there to help you with that, to prepare you for that, so that again you're really ready for your work. So I just wanted to show you the foundation program, just very quickly, the modules that we cover in the foundation, and then I'm going to talk about the bachelor's and the master's. As you can see, there are 2 modules dedicated to English. This is the International Foundation program. Business in Practice will look at the type of companies, different types of companies, the internal and external factors that impact on companies. Practical digital marketing, well, it's kind of obvious what that is, but it will be looking at the marketing mix and the effects, for example, of digital marketing in the way we communicate and how we communicate our message effectively. Applied business finance will look at interpreting financial data and records. And then the world of work is a focus on the human resource side of business and the skill set for jobs, why people are motivated for work, and so on. So I just wanted to kind of show you how that International Foundation program is organized. In terms of the bachelor's, I wanted to show you the different pathways that you can take from our bachelor's programs. You can do a standard bachelor's in business management, but also you can choose to kind of focus and customize your pathway in terms of finance, marketing, people management, which is again human resource, retail, and supply chain. So you can adapt the program according to your interest. In terms of the masters, we have 2 masters programs for the business school. One is the Masters of International Management, which I alluded to earlier, and the Masters of Business Administration. Basically, the difference is, one of the differences is that the Masters of International Management is much more focused on working in a multinational company, working abroad, and you as a global manager working in marketing, so thinking about, again, impact of your marketing message on an international audience, taking your product to market or taking your service to market. Global HR, so what you need to think about when you are recruiting globally. And indeed, as a manager, how you are able to build an international team, how your communication style, how your global leadership style impacts on your team, whether you are working with them face-to-face or whether you're working with them remotely. We also take that into account. Cross-cultural communication. So everything in this master's is really internationally facing and is going to equip you if you're working, again, as I said, either as an expatriate, whether you're working in your own company and want to take it abroad, or whether you're working in a multinational company. So the Masters of Business Administration is standard, but this program really focuses on the international. just a few words about the School of Allied Health and the programs we offer there. Again, the foundation program, you can see we dedicate 30% of the program to improving English for healthcare. But then we look at the individual and society, thinking about how modern society is seen from the perspective of gender, race, and disability. Research methods in social science, presenting descriptive data on a real world issue. And a lot of our students at the moment are obviously studying COVID and talking about COVID, the impact that has. The world of work, thinking about how work impacts us and affects us socially, physically, psychologically. And finally, reading contemporary society. Again, understanding how race, gender, social class, age, disability, and mental health are presented in the media and how that influences public opinion and the public perception. So this is really laying the foundation for you if you want to go into healthcare, not as a doctor, but potentially as perhaps an occupational therapist or a nurse or a social worker, laying the foundations for how you should be looking at society and how society is influenced by external factors. And then when you go into your first year of bachelor's, you can see that there is much more focus on perhaps more traditional areas of healthcare. You can see, for example, anatomy, physiology for health and social care. So that's a bit more of a traditional kind of look and focus in more specific terms at healthcare. The second year, just wanted to highlight that you will have a work-based experience. There will be a placement, as I mentioned earlier, with a local healthcare provider. So you do get hands-on experience. And then in the final year, then you can choose, there will be options for you to choose whether you want to focus on healthcare for children, healthcare for vulnerable adults, healthcare for the elderly. You get to then choose and really focus on the area that you want to focus on. And there are a multitude of jobs that people go into having taken the bachelor's in healthcare. You know, it's not confined only to nursing and occupational therapy, both of which, incidentally, you would need to go on and do a further postgraduate qualification. But the bachelor's gives you a very strong foundation before you do that. But there are lots of other jobs that people can go into: psychology, working, for example, in the police force, housing. There are a real lots of different jobs that you can go into. And if you'd like a list of those jobs, I can send them to you to get you thinking. School of Computing and AI is our final school, and we offer two programs. One is the International Foundation in Computing, and then the Bachelor's in Engineering, Software Engineering. There's less focus on English language in the foundation program because obviously the knowledge of mathematics is greater on this program, but we still help you to use the vocabulary and language for computing and IT. There's a focus on fundamentals. There will be a project, a smarter project with smarter project objectives, which you'll need to undertake. Computers in society, looking and evaluating the role of computers and the impact that they have on society. And foundation principles 2 is a range of engineering problems that you will be expected to solve, and you'll be employing calculus and other numerical methods. In terms of the bachelor's, as you can see, some of those modules are really very practically focused: data structure, software engineering, again, databases, and an opportunity to do a foundation project. And yeah, it's a strong but small department, really well geared if you're looking to go into that computing or IT field. Okay, coming to the end of the presentation now, I just wanted to talk a little bit about what I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation about our holistic approach to learning. Yes, we want to equip you with that strong academic knowledge, but we really want you to grow not only academically, but also personally and professionally. And so we provide additional extracurricular classes that focus on a whole host of practical areas for your future studies, but also for your future career. So for example, how to develop a positive mindset. It's very important at this time where students have been suffering because of COVID. Mental well-being has suffered, and we want to help students to kind of build a much more positive mindset for the future. And then other areas which you'll recognize perhaps more readily, like leadership qualities. What is a good leader? How can you manage or lead a company effectively? Entrepreneurial skills, developing the mindset to set up your own company and develop your own company. Resilience and emotional intelligence. All things perhaps that we don't talk about so much at higher education and university level, because I don't know, we assume people will develop these things on their own, but we want to help you with those things, because if you are able to build your resilience, positive mindset and so on, you are going to be better able to implement your academic studies, but also your work-based and career in the future. Okay, so if you're interested in applying, please speak to Cowrie. I'm sure she'll be able to help you. We have a very good admissions team back in London. Your application will come to me, and then it will go for processing with the admissions team. In terms of academic requirements, I don't think there's anything which is particularly difficult in terms of understanding our entry requirements. They're all there. In terms of GPA score for a foundation, you would be required 50% GPA, which would be 2.5. Bachelor's 60%, which would be a GPA score of 3, and for masters 63%, 3.15 GPA. So I think that's all very straightforward or standard, but if you'd like more information, please speak to Cowrie or myself. In terms of English requirements, so for the International Foundation, it's IELTS 5 with no lower than 4.5, and for bachelor's and masters, IELTS 6 with no lower than 5.5. We do also offer English support before students come. It's absolutely free. We have online lessons with a live teacher. And if you wanted to join some of those classes to practice, to meet some of the other students, you're more than welcome to tune in. And if you want more information, speak to me or Cowrie. Thank you for your time. Sorry if I went on a bit, but just wanted to give you an overview of everything. There's my email if you do want to speak to me directly. But Cowrie will really be your first point of contact. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great weekend and day. Cowrie, back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you so much for a wonderful presentation. It's very detailed, and the advice for English study is very useful for Japanese students. Thank you so much. And we got quite many questions from students. So shall we move to FAQ?
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you. And so the first question is about the homework. One student is worrying whether they will receive many tasks during the week? Is there any students staying up late with their homework? What do you think about that?
I mean, obviously, like I said, there is a certain amount of self-study that you are expected to undertake, but our students don't spend all night up, working and studying. Part of the course is not only to work on your own, but to collaborate with your fellow students. So we will expect you that we've got very nice areas within the campus where you can break out, work with your fellow students, create projects together, create presentations together. So you won't be left on your own. The amount of work, I know Japanese students always work very hard. You're very diligent, you're very hardworking, but we want you also to be able to benefit from the opportunities, like I say, to collaborate. So it's up to you how much homework you do. We're not taskmasters, we're not here to force you to work into the early hours, but please use the opportunity to speak to other students, work with other students, because they can help you and you can help them. So actually the homework becomes much more fun when you're doing it with other students and you learn so much more. Okay, I hope I've answered your question.
Thank you so much for your answer. I think he or she will relieve about that.
Okay.
Thank you. And the next question is regarding the scholarship. Do you offer any scholarship for international students or especially for Japanese?
Yes, we do. So the scholarship for the foundation is 1,750. So the 1750. So the published price is 9,000, as I said, 9,250. So after the scholarship, the net fee is 7,500. So the price reduces from 9,250 down to 7,500. For the masters and the bachelors, we are currently, and for January, offering 4,950, which brings so it's a very good scholarship.
Yes.
So that will bring the price of the masters down from 12,450 down to, again, 7,500. So the net fee on all programs is 7,500, which we know is very competitive. As I said from the beginning, two things. We want to recruit internationally. That's why the price is that low. The other reason is that we want to give everybody the opportunity, not just in Japan, but internationally, to be able to study in the UK with us. So we're really making an effort to make the fees, because we know international fees can be very high for students. So we want to make them attractive and also beneficial. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, and I think next question will be the last question. We got the questions regarding the COVID-19, and may I read the question?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. So how is the COVID-19 situation in the UK and in London? And how do you deal with the COVID in your school?
Yeah, very good question. I mean, just kind of generally speaking, to give you an update, as of next week, we will be lifting the restrictions for COVID, and that means that people don't have to wear a mask if they don't want to. I think the truth is most people will continue wearing a mask. So next week is going to be quite a big change, because legally we don't have to do certain things, but we understand that certain things still need to continue in order to control COVID. The government is basically giving us the autonomy and self-control to make our own decision Okay, but that doesn't mean that suddenly everybody's going to be kissing and hugging in public and everybody's going to be throwing their mask in the bin. We will continue to show and display caution. Now, within the universities, there must be, for example, distance between desks. There must still be a meter or a meter and a half of distance between the desks. And it's interesting, some students have the choice, if they want, they can come back to campus, but many students have actually decided to continue studying online. Now, for international students, when they come in January, of course, they will want to come in on campus because they want to, enjoy the culture, they want to meet other students. But we are very prepared. We've got lots of space, and we will make sure that the COVID distancing rule is observed. The hygiene is very, very good in the school. It's constantly being cleaned. So I know that this is a concern, especially for Japanese students. I know how important hygiene is. The vaccination, of course, is another point that a lot of our people have been, a lot of the 60% of the population have now been vaccinated. But of course, there are still concerns, and I'm not going to pretend there are certain things we don't know. We don't know how variants will mutate. We don't know what, but we are ready to deliver digitally. We are ready to deliver on campus. So our offering will be synchronous delivery online or synchronous delivery on campus. And synchronous means live teaching with a teacher. So there are certain questions I can't answer because I can't look into the future at January, but we hope that with easing restrictions starting next week, we will return to some normality, but we're all very cautious and careful, and hygiene is really very, very important, okay? So I hope that reassures to a certain extent.
Thank you so much for telling us about the COVID situation in UK now. And it's, I think online and mixed learning is very popular now. But fingers crossed, hopefully many students can learn on campus.
Yeah, I mean, just sorry to say one other thing. We were going to invite international students from this September, but we've delayed it because we don't want international students coming over to the UK and sitting in a residence locked in their room. It's not good for their mentality, their well-being, and it's not what they're coming to the UK for. So we want students to be able to come over and have as normal an interaction and a course as they possibly can. And we think January will be a lot better than September. That's why we've postponed. We care. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, I guess January is, January intake gives students to prepare more confident and better for everybody. Thank you so much.
Exactly, I think be better. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so gonna I think it's nearly time. So 皆様本日は、弊社のウェビナーにご参加いただきありがとうございます。リージェンツカレッジロンドンについていかがでしたでしょうか。学校の概要から、そうですね、英語の勉強の仕方について、たくさんの情報をご教示いただきましたが、皆様のお役に立ちましたら幸いです。何かご質問等ございましたら、弊社に直接ご連絡いただきまして、スタッフの方からご案内をさせていただくことも可能でございます。ぜひ、個別の面談も受けたまっておりますので、引き続きご連絡いただきましたら幸いです。Okay, Scott. Thank you so much for your presentation today and for now we are at the end of the webinar and I think
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great day and take care, everybody. Bye.
Have a nice day too.
Thank you
for your joining. 皆様ご参加いただきありがとうございました。
はい。はい。
Thank you.